Hi there, I'm Liza Yntema. I am the founder and president of Dance Data Project, and I'm lucky enough to be here today with my colleague, Ellen FitzGerald, who is a former professional dancer, has attended a number of summer intensives, and actually in her other life worked on sexual assault and harassment with sororities and fraternities. So she's going to be interviewing Jen Sommers, and I'm going to annoyingly pop in when I have a burning question that I just can't wait to ask. Ellen, I'm going to turn it over to you. And Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So Jennifer, can you just talk to us about your journey to Houston Ballet and kind of where you come from, and then how you ended up here and what your role has been like? Because I know it has evolved over the last several years that you've been with Houston Ballet.
Actually went to the University of Pennsylvania and got a degree in history undergrad because at that time, because I'm not a spring chicken, I didn't really understand that there were such things as college dance programs. And so for me, it was really like, well, I love this thing, but I'm not going to be able to move to New York and get a contract with, a company, and I do well academically. So this is the end of the road for me. I'm going to college. And then I went to school in Philadelphia and just spent most of my time dancing anyway. Tried again after I graduated from college to quit this life, and then just sort of realized why this is my passion. I need to be involved with it in some way. I think I was drawn to teaching when I was quite a young person, but it was in my 20s that I sort of realized that was my calling. I got my master's in my MFA in performance and choreography at Smith College in '97, and then since then really been teaching in different arenas. And it wasn't until I came to Houston, I took a job at one of the KIPP charter schools to start a dance program there. And then I think I also taught in the academy some. And when I guess we did a little bit of a reshuffle as an organization a couple of years ago, and Stanton and Jim invited me to take on this position. So I knew that if I said, I would always regret it if I said no. Community engagement and professional ballet school are really very different things. But what I love about it is the folks that I work with on both sides really are all committed to students first, which is my philosophy.
Would love to hear about the summer program, and then as a student-centered organization, how you really prioritize student safety during the summer program.
Not even just during the summer program. We understand that our responsibility to the dancers is as whole people. That obviously the reason they're coming here is to develop their physicality and their artistry for this profession. But that's not going to happen if we don't attend to their health and wellness and their academics, and so on and so forth. So if you either have to have a high school diploma or the equivalent, or you need to be enrolled in school to be a part of our professional program. We offer ESL classes for our students who come here from other countries. We offer study hall. We have a residential component normally. This year, we're bringing it back. We had some older students living in apartments this year. But our 16-person dorm is open at 50% capacity this summer. We are not doing a residential component. We partner with a local college called the University of St. Thomas to house lots and lots and lots of students. But when we had to make our decisions about summer, it really wasn't feasible COVID-wise at the time. But that idea that, and the students also have supplemental programming, some of which is very career focused, like developing a resume and an audition video and that kind of thing. But we broaden that to include what are my responsibilities going to be as a professional dancer? How am I going to interface with marketing and PR? What are my responsibilities going to be for development? What is it going to, working with the current company manager, they come in to talk to our students about expectations, what the shift is from student to professional. We also have an IDEA component. We believe that, Houston Ballet is committed to being an anti-racist organization, and that's included in our curriculum for the students as well. And so, really we feel like, and I feel like that's, obviously I'm not in the studio with them in paw class or technique, that's really where my responsibility lies, is fleshing out the rest of it. Of course, we've got, in terms of keeping the dancers physically safe, we are so fortunate to have a partner in Houston Methodist that's really guided us in terms all through. They always do, they always have, but they, certainly with COVID-19, have really made it possible for our doors to be open from September 8th on, never having an issue at all. And I will say that partnership with Houston Methodist also provides another layer of education for our students and our families. And we also have that with a therapist. That person does some sort of social, emotional, mental health sessions at least once a month with each of the program dancers, and is available for one-on-one counseling. So that part of our program is, like I said, you're not going to make it as a professional dancer if you don't understand what you need in terms of rest and cross training and mental health and wellness and all those kinds of things. So we really prioritize that.
Let's talk about the procedures that Houston Ballet has in place at every level to make sure that anybody coming into the studio at any level is safe. And in particular, what you do around your summer intensive students to keep them safe.
Yeah, I mean, any adult that is going to be at Houston Ballet at all, even if you are just coming to do an audition class or you're coming, every single person has a background check. So that's the low bar. We also have several very specific policies around social media. Company dancers and adults are not allowed to interact one-on-one. So our students can follow, like if they could follow a company dancer, but they cannot engage in one-on-one conversation with dancers or me. I mean, they can with me if they come in here, but we always have we never have one-on-one, like the teacher, if a teacher's meeting with the student, there's always another person there. We feel really strongly about that. And for our summer intensive program, this year we don't have the residential component as much. We'll have the 50% capacity in our dorm, and we have a full-time resident dorm supervisor that is the responsibility for taking care of those students who they have all kinds of training that they participate in. We have, as an organization, trainings that we have to do, obviously CPR and that kind of thing, but also we participate in diversity training and harassment training and active shooter, that kind of thing. So we do that as an organization, and then we have specific practices we put in place for all of that kind of thing throughout the year, but definitely in the summer as well. Normally, when we have more of a residential program, we have not just the dorm supervisor here in this building, but also between 8 and 10 chaperones that are responsible for 8 to, basically each chaperone has responsibility for 10 kids. And they, they're with them all the time. They live with them at UST. Obviously, all of those folks go through a background check and training to support, appropriate behavior and that kind of thing. And then they have access, those chaperones, to the experts that we have on staff. They have access to us so that if there's a situation, we really feel like the people who work in residential life are such an important part of catching something early. I guess the word I was looking for is they're the safety net, right? To know whether we need to intervene on any level. Yes, we do. We often have the kids, as I said, in that sort of supplemental curriculum. Bullying is something that we address. And we did actually. I was telling you about the session we did most recently. The one right before that, which was in March, was called "Being Kind in a Competitive Environment," and we had our people from our partnership at Houston Methodist, as well as our therapist. Our staff therapist was in on that conversation. Basically, bullying's generally coming from a place where of an individual feeling not good about themselves and taking it out elsewhere. And we did have a situation in our school that we needed to address earlier in the fall, like this whole online thing as well. We've had to really develop a protocol, just like everybody else, learn safety protocol for the online environment as well. And so that's something we take very seriously. We also, in all of our student handbooks, have policies and bullying is one of them. If you are a Houston Ballet Academy student, you must abide by the following. Yes, it's a published code of conduct inside of our student handbook. Absolutely.
How do you think about that? And do you feel like Houston Ballet Academy is ahead of the curve in terms of organizations and ballet schools, or do you feel like everyone is on the same playing field, or where did this all come from?
We developed our policies on our own, but I think certainly not. We work with our legal team. We work with professionals in the field, but I think in this day and age, I don't think any residential school could not have something like that. I would be very surprised if our peer organizations did not have something similar.
I imagine particularly as ballet has become more international, you've got students coming over from overseas, particularly from Asia, and it's got to be incredibly disorienting. The one thing that does make sense is the studio, but everything else, the food, the accommodations, et cetera, has got to be really disorienting.
Yeah, well, we have a resident advisor over at we've got some apartments across the street for our students that are 17 and 18. And we have a resident advisor there who is she's just fantastic. And she really, she's been with us a long time and really creates, the independent environment that the students need at that age to learn how to be independent adults, but also, again, a safety net for that kind of thing. We are very fortunate, or I have been very fortunate as I've been in this position, as we, other than the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been something crazy. Really, we have not had, knock on wood, a situation arise that needs to be like a sexual assault kind of situation, or even just harassment arise that I've had to deal with. And that's because the people before me, whether that's Shelley Power, whether that was Christine Stowe Martin, who sat in this chair before me, they had taken that all into consideration. It's something we've been doing for a long time.
In a normal year, what kinds of parent and student orientation do you take folks through so that they have so that they're not thrown to the wolves, right? Or thrown into the middle of a metropolitan area?
So that's a great question. I mean, we've always had robust summer orientation. I have to say, when we was on site and parents and students arrived and they get a tour of the facility and they know where they have to go, this, that, or the other. Here are the rules about this. Same with the dorm. This land of Zoom is very interesting and I think quite good in some ways, even though, gosh, yeah, I would love to have a tour of the Center for Dance. We can do that. We understand that we can do that digitally. We can explain expectations. And then you have, those parents that are in a different country can be tuning in and really feeling like they're there with their kid. We think we take our responsibility to parents very seriously. As you pointed out, the ones in the summer program could be as young as 12. But even the school year when they're 14 and up, it's a lot to ask a parent to give over their 14 or 15-year-old. You best want, I would expect to hear from them. And we feel that piece of communication is really important. So we have monthly town halls for all of our families that we started doing this year because there was constantly something changing that we needed to update them about. But it'll be an institution. It's an opportunity for us to make sure they're hearing. We have a monthly newsletter. We have a monthly town hall. And then in the weeks that we're not having those things, we have a director's letter that comes straight from myself and Melissa Bowman. And basically communication. And conversely, we're always here for questions and concerns. It's an open door. While we do with our teenage students, both in the intensive and during the school year, want to encourage that, as they're getting older, that they're taking more ownership of their lives. Their parent isn't in their back pocket anymore, doing everything for them. We really want to encourage that. We also recognize that kids develop at different rates, and some of them don't. We're sometimes the in-between parents and students, right? As students want to be independent. But I think that piece is so important. And we don't want to hold on to any information, right? We want to make sure the parents have as much information as they can so that they feel part of the process. they feel part of, they understand, they've maybe come from a home studio where they know everybody, and now they don't know other parents, and they don't know where their kid is. And again, like I said, I think that's a big ask to give over your teenager, for even if it's just for the 5-week program. That's a long time. So that piece is very, very, very important to us.
And just to kind of wrap us up, what does a successful summer program look like for you all? How do you define that? And obviously we want to keep students safe, but what else does success look like?
I feel like it's definitely individual to the student. So hopefully every single student that comes to this intensive makes some sort of little breakthrough, whether it's in how they work their arabesque or the way they're hearing a particular variation, whatever it is. We want, that's one of the best things about a summer intensive. Even if you're not going to come study with us year round, what did maybe one of our teachers say that your home teacher was probably saying too, but in a different way, that made a light bulb go off. So that's first and foremost what is a successful summer for us. Also, performance training is a big part of an important pillar of the Houston Ballet Academy. And so even this year, it's going to be a digital performance, but we're still going to work on rep. We're still going to be able to perform it in our black box theater. And that they have that experience, that they have a positive experience, and that they dig into the artistry of this art form as well. And then, of course, when we do have a resident, and even when we don't, the summer, like, ballet friends are your forever friends. And, people, I think it's so wonderful that people from around the world come here and they spend, and we call it the intensive, but they spend an intense 5 weeks together. And that's really, those memories are theirs forever, no matter what. And my hope is always, so first and foremost, they make some sort of breakthrough as an artist, that they feel they've really accomplished something artistically with the performance. And then thirdly, that they've had a really great time, and that they go home with best friends like I have from my childhood.
Well, Jennifer Sommers, we so appreciate your taking the time to talk with us about Houston Ballet Academy and the really vigorous safety protocols that you've put into place, and your summer intensive. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for including us.
Thank you.